Hey everyone, David Morrison here from the Vol Society, continuing with exclusive content on our Vol Society social media pages. And as you can see in the title of the video and the hat that I'm wearing, it is baseball time in Tennessee as your defending national champion Tennessee Volunteers are about to start a brand new season of Tennessee baseball. This time, as I mentioned, defending national champions. And the Vols will be opening the season on Valentine's Day, February the 14th, on a Friday afternoon, as they'll begin the season at home, welcoming in Hofstra for a 3-game weekend series set. And hey, talk about appropriate Valentine's Day with a little Tennessee baseball and Tony Vitello and a lot of other great Tennessee baseball players. But here in this video, we're going to preview the 2020 or 2025 Tennessee baseball team. As I mentioned, getting ready for this new season, we're going to talk about who is not coming back next year, as far as mainly, players that really hit the draft. There wasn't too many guys that left and hit the transfer portal this year. Most of the guys that left end up getting drafted in Major League Baseball. We're going to talk about who's coming back and, of course, the new players coming aboard. And we'll also talk about some guys that was on the bench last year, didn't get a lot of playing time, that could take a next step up in their role on this Tennessee baseball team. So let's go ahead. Let's talk about the departures from last year's national championship team. There's a lot of them, obviously, a lot of great players going on to continue in their baseball career as they go through the minors and make their road to the show, if you will. And, of course, the big departure, arguably maybe the greatest Tennessee baseball player of all time, in Christian Moore, the talented second baseman, had the hit for the cycle in the College World Series, set all sorts of Tennessee records, SEC Player of the Year. Desperately a big-time player you're going to miss next year, a leader in the clubhouse, a 4-year guy with Tony Vitello's tenure. So desperately going to miss him. I did get to see Christian Moore play a little bit of minor league baseball, as he is in the LA Angels minor league affiliate. He was in Double-A Rocket City, the Rocket City Trash Pandas. I got to saw him play last year, playing the Chattanooga Lookouts. So we'll see where he if he can continue his climb into the majors. As right now, a lot of Major League Baseball clubs have starting their training camp, and spring training is about to get underway. Pitchers and catchers reported on Monday. Some of them did, and some today, and others a few days later. But we'll see how that goes. But yeah, Christian Moore, a big-time player, going to be missed next year. Dylan Dryland, talented outfielder, your World Series MVP, off to bigger and better things. Another guy that we're going to desperately miss. Pretty much your entire outfield, except for Hunter Ensley, gone. Dylan Dryland, Kavarius Tears, gone, and right field. So you're desperately going to have a lot of new faces in that outfield coming into next season. But Dryling and Tears is a big departure. Your third baseman, Billy Amlick, who has started a trend with a lot of Tennessee sporting events with his walk-up song, Billy Squires, The Stroke, and the clapping in the stadium that started at Lindsey Nelson Stadium and worked its way into football season and basketball season, kind of become an unofficial crowd song, participation song. But, besides that, he was a talented third baseman, battled through some injuries, but it really helped us out down the stretch, especially going into Omaha. So you're going to lose your third baseman. You lose your first baseman, Blake Burt, guy that felt like he was there for 100 years at Tennessee. Set the home run record. Just a talented player for Tennessee. Once again, going on to Major League Baseball. You lose your entire weekend rotation Chris Stamos, Aaron Combs, Andrew Seacrest. Matter of fact, Aaron Combs was the one that threw the final pitch in the national championship game to seal Tennessee the national championship. So your entire weekend rotation is gone. Kirby Connell, another guy that's been at Tennessee for 100 years, talented relief pitcher, also gone. So there's a lot of holes that needs to be filled. So does Tennessee have those holes, and who's coming back to fill these holes? So let's switch the graphic over to the returns. All right, so we'll kind of break it down, just kind of going around the diamond, and then we'll go into the outfield here. So let's start with first base. We'll work our way around the diamond. So first base, we already mentioned Blake Burke's gone. It looked like Tennessee was going to rely on utility player Dalton Bargo to start at first base, but kind of at the 11th hour, Tennessee picked up a late transfer portal addition from North Carolina in Alberto Ozuna. Alberto Ozuna had some great numbers at UNC, and Tennessee picked up a big-time player in him. So your first base is pretty much secure. You know, I still expect to see Dalton Bargo to possibly play a little bit at first base, maybe during the midweek games. Usually Tennessee has that midweek non-conference game of the likes of an ETSU or a Sanford or whoever, Tennessee Tech. So you may see Bargo there, and Ozuna may be safe for the weekends. Tennessee's also got another first baseman in Levi Clark, a true freshman. Might get to see him play a little bit, but I'm possibly not for sure if he'll get to see the field this year. I think it's mainly going to be Ozuna and Dalton Bargo at first base. Like I said, Bargo is a utility player, so he can play at many different positions. Also can DH for us. I think that's probably where you're going to see him throughout the weekend, and Ozuna at first base. Going on to second base, we mentioned that's where Christian Moore's home was for 3 years at the University of Tennessee. Tennessee ended up picking up a transfer. We'll go ahead and kind of talk. We'll go ahead and we'll blend the returns and transfer portal in here. I did have a graphic for the transfer portal, but it's going to kind of run together. So there you go. Second baseman, Gavin Keelan, transferred in from Louisville, will be at second base. I think that's, like I said, he did fine at Louisville. Had some great numbers out there. I think he'll be your primary second baseman every game. You also got the likes of a Hunter High and a Blake Grimer who can play multiple positions in the infield. I think they can hold down that really well. But mainly it's going to be Gavin Keelan. Shortstop. So you got a couple of options. Obviously, at the start of last season, you had a guy named Ariel Antigua who was starting at shortstop. Got hurt. That opened the door for the true freshman, Dean Curley, and he became another start on that Tennessee National Championship team last year. So Dean Curling is still your starting shortstop, but Ariel Antigua, you'll get to see him quite a bit this year. Matter of fact, you may see Dean Curling DH a little bit, or Antigua. Tennessee has many different options as far as who they can have at DH. We'll go ahead and mention Jay Abernathy is another guy that can DH along with Bargo. You can have Curling and Antigua, maybe one of the outfielders, but it's going to be Curling and Antigua holding the fort. And I'm going to come back to these guys in just a moment because there could be an option at third base, and we'll go ahead and mention third base. That's where Billy Amlick was last year, and now it is the home of Andrew Fisher, talented player. Transfer from Ole Miss, also a former Duke baseball player, now at Tennessee. Tennessee was really going after Andrew Fisher in the transfer portal since he entered his name in, got him on campus, and now he's going to be at third base. He played a little bit of outfield at Ole Miss. Matter of fact, I think while third base is his primary position, he did struggle at third base, believe it or not, at Ole Miss. Moved him to the outfield, and he excelled more out there. So getting back to the shortstop position with Dean Curley and Ariel Antigua, there's a lot of praise in Antigua to really shine this year. So if there's a case where maybe one of these outfielders may struggle a little bit, like a Reese Chapman or a Kobe Bogus, and I'll get to those guys in just a moment. And it's not saying that they're terrible out there, but if there's a chance one of those outfielders may be struggling, you could have the possibility to move Andrew Fisher out to the outfield and then move Dean Curling to third base, which Dean Curling played third base in high school and feels more comfortable there than at shortstop, and then you keep Antigua. So there is an option for there. I know there's a lot of moving pieces into place, but it wouldn't be shocking to kind of see that. So that's third base, Andrew Fisher. Then at catcher at home plate, you lose Cal Stark and Charlie Taylor from last year. Cannon Peoples, who transferred in from NC State the year before, struggled behind the plate, and that's where that opened up for Taylor and Cal Stark. Cal Stark was the main catcher throughout the World Series run. So now Cannon Peoples is the main guy at catcher. You also have another guy in Stone Lawless who's going to back up for Peoples, and of course I think Lawless will play those midweek games. But if Peoples does struggle, Tony Vitello not afraid to pull guys and use younger guys. And I'll say this about Tony Vitello, and this is not a bash at Josh Heupel or Rick Barnes or any of the Tennessee coaches. One thing I do appreciate about Tony Vitello, or the manager, is Tony is not afraid to play young guys, especially starting pitchers. We've seen a lot of true freshmen starting pitchers, and I'll get to the pitchers in a moment. But that's one thing I do appreciate about Tony Vitello. He's not afraid to play these young guys right away. If a veteran struggles, he's like, hey, I got this young kid, this young hotshot. He can take your position, and he'll prove it to you. So that's definitely something to keep an eye out on. So that's kind of a look at around the diamond. The outfield, Hunter Ensley returns back at center field. Man, Hunter Ensley had a fantastic College World Series. Two of the greatest plays. He had the one great play where he had the catch at the wall and left his, eye paint on the center wall at Omaha. And then he had the epic jump slide in the championship game against Texas A&M. So a big surprise. A lot of people thought Hunter Ensley would have joined the rest of his teammates and hit the MLB draft, but Hunter Ensley decided to come back, and that brings leadership really to this team. And I'm not saying that none of these guys can't be leaders, but you need somebody that kind of be your clubhouse leader. And I think Hunter Ensley will be that guy. Along with maybe like an AJ Russell or somebody, one of the pitchers. Kobe Bogus, we kind of briefly mentioned him. He's going to take over at left field where Dylan Dryland was last year. That's some big shoes to fill, but we'll see how he does. And then Reese Chapman at right field. I kind of threw Reese Chapman under the bus thinking he might struggle and move Andrew Fisher over to right, but I think, we'll see how Reese Chapman does at right field. That's where Tears was last year. Like I said, so a lot of, I don't want to say inexperience, but definitely some new faces in the outfield. But plus Bogus and Chapman played a lot of weekend games. They played a lot of the midweek games last year, so they do have experience. But competition does pick up a lot more in SEC play. Other backups, including like Jalen Walker, Bo Reveau, Braden Sharp. In the outfield. So I don't want to say the outfield is thin, but definitely, like I said, a lot of new faces outside of a Hunter Ensley. All right, so we'll go to the strength of the team, and that is the pitchers returning back and transfer portal. Returning back for pitchers, Nate Snead returns back. Easy for me to say. Returns back for Tennessee as a pitcher. A.J. Russell comes back from injury. A.J. Russell had a great start to the season last year. Unfortunately, had a season-ending injury and didn't really live up to his full potential, what he had. So back 100% healthy. Right now he's not projected to start day one. There's really no timetable, but he will be back sometime this season. But we'll see where he goes from there. I think he'll probably start – once he returns, I think he's going to start in the bullpen. Uh, Tanner Franklin returns back. But there's, a lot of, and some of the backups, Marcus Phillips, Luke Payne. So you'll probably see some of those guys in the bullpen. Marcus Phillips, a guy that Tony V and this Tennessee baseball team's kind of high on, but he's kind of has his velocity is off quite a bit. So hopefully he can get that down and live up to his hype. And Luke Payne, expect him to take a step up. Dylan Lloyd's another guy. Andrew Benkei, I think is his name. Another guy that could step up. And then some of the new players coming in. Liam Doole transferred from Ole Miss, played with Andrew Fisher. You also have a talented freshman that Tennessee's really relying on, and I think he's going to be in the weekend rotation, Tegan Coons. Tegan Coons played on Team USA. I think it's probably the high school Team USA team. He's a really tall kid, a lot of potential, really high on him. I think he's probably going to be your Saturday starter. I think Liam Doole will go Friday nights games. Then I think it'll be Tegan Coons and then possibly Nate Snead on Sundays. So Tennessee is very deep in the pitching position. They got a lot of players that transferred in from various schools. So they're very deep there. You're going to see probably a lot of guys pitch on Wednesdays and those midweek games, as we mentioned several times. But your weekend guys is going to be Doyle Coons and Nate Snead for Tennessee. So that's kind of a look, very brief look at who Tennessee has. And I know, like I said, I didn't cover everybody, but this is kind of a quick snapshot of what to kind of look out for. But I expect to see, big years, obviously, from Hunter Ensley, Dean Curling. I think Andrew Fisher, he can go yard every game. And I even like a guy like I'm excited to see how Alberto Zuni will do and Ariel Antigua. I think they can go deep. And even Dalton Bargo, I think he can be a very great asset for Tennessee. All right, so let's kind of look at the schedules. And like I said, I'm not going to go through every Tennessee baseball game, but, actually, I did kind of somewhat wrote it all down. But non-conference schedule, Tennessee doesn't really have a tough non-conference schedule. They open the season, as I mentioned, this Friday for a weekend series with Hofstra. And then following that, it's a midweek game against UC Asheville. 3-game series with Sanford. North Alabama is another midweek game. But probably the 3 non-conference toughest games you're going to face is down in Houston the weekend of February 28th through March the 2nd, part of the Houston Astros College Classic. Tennessee played there last year, 2 years ago, so should be very familiar. Tennessee's going to play Oklahoma State, Rice, and Arizona that weekend series. So that's a pretty big opportunity for Tennessee to get some quality wins down in Houston. Tennessee's been very successful at whether it's Houston or down at where the Texas Rangers play, the Shriners Children's Classic down there. I think they won it last year, if I'm not mistaken. So Tennessee does very well these, not really tournaments, but weekend series, if you will. And then a very interesting game, April the 1st, a team that has been on Tennessee's, gave Tennessee some losses and been a thorn to their side. April 1st in Knoxville at Lindsey Nelson Stadium, Tennessee Tech. Tennessee Tech has, like I said, just been a thorn to Tennessee's side the last 2 or 3 years. I know Tennessee played Tech at Smoky Stadium a couple seasons ago, and Tennessee used the wooden bats, and Tech ended up winning that game. And so definitely an interesting non-conference game, kind of become a little mini rivalry the last few years. Tennessee Tech and Tennessee, a couple of great baseball schools there. But that's kind of like a look at the non-conference schedule. A lot of the midweek games, as I mentioned, kind of inferior opponents, ETSU, play Queens. I remember reading that, and just kind of your in-state foes / regional mid-major schools. But once you get into SEC play, that's where big boy baseball comes into play. So let's run down the SEC schedule. And Tennessee will be playing 5 teams that is currently ranked in the D1 baseball preseason top 25 poll. And they start with a pretty big one. March 14th through the 16th at Lindsey Nelson Stadium. And by the way, renovations are still going on at Lindsey Nelson Stadium, and especially right down, I can't remember the name of the road that used to be the old entrance way into the stadium. I mean, it looks like, it almost looks like a war zone out there. I mean, they've tore that whole road up. But Lindsey Nelson Stadium under construction, going from 4,000 seats to about 7,500 seats. So a big renovation coming up in the next couple of years. And obviously, hey, Tennessee baseball is red hot right now. National championships, a fun team to watch. So there's going to be some rowdy crowds at Lindsey Nelson Stadium, especially the student body section, the Lindsey Nelson Legends. I can't wait to see those guys and girls back at the stadium. But Florida comes into town March 14th to the 16th. Always a big rival, don't matter the sport. Florida's preseason ranked number 10 in the nation. So should be a fun series. Usually some bad blood in this series. So we'll see what happens there. Tennessee next 2 SEC games will be on the road, or next 2 SEC series. March 20th through the 22nd, taking on Alabama on the road. Alabama not ranked in the preseason, but still going to be a very tough outing. Same thing with South Carolina, March 28th to the 30th. South Carolina, a former national champion in baseball. Unfortunately, the program taking a bit of a dip last 2-3 years, if you will, but still going to be a big-time weekend showdown. And then April the 4th to the 6th, the rematch with Texas A&M, and we get them at home. As you know, Jay Snodgrass, I think it's his name, the former manager at Texas A&M, the day after we won the national championship, took the job at the University of Texas. So they're going to meet sometime in the season, and it's in College Station, and that's going to be an interesting series to watch from afar. But the rematch with the World Series National Championship between Tennessee and Texas A&M, April 4th to the 6th at home. 2 of those games I know is going to be on TV, and I think one of them, that Saturday game, is online, which kind of stinks, is a bummer. But it is what it is. But you do have Texas A&M coming in, and they're the preseason number 1 team. They're pretty much returning everybody from last year's national championship team. So should be a fun series coming up that weekend. Tennessee will hit the road April 11th to the 13th, taking on Ole Miss, another former national championship team, kind of falling a little bit of hard times. So that's coming up there. You return back home, taking on Kentucky April the 18th through the 20th. And then on the road, taking on preseason number 3, LSU. This is pretty much Tennessee's biggest baseball rival. A lot of bad blood, a lot of animosity, a lot of, chirpiness. You may see Tony V get ejected sometime this weekend, or maybe LSU. You never know. This has been a very heated baseball rivalry the last several years, even before Tony V got there. Tony V's just kind of turned the amplifiers up a lot more with it. But should be a fun one, preseason number 3. And by the way, Tennessee's preseason number 4. I should have mentioned that at the beginning, but give you a heads up there. And then wrapping up the month of May, 2 of these series at home. May the 2nd through the 4th, taking on Auburn. Auburn, a very underrated team in SEC play, despite not being ranked. May 9th through the 11th, preseason ranked number 16, Vanderbilt comes into town. Another big rivalry game. And plus, we don't get to listen to the Vanderbilt Whistler when we go to Nashville. Or actually, we won't be in Nashville, be at home, but don't have to hear him. And then May through the 15th, or May 15th through the 17th, beg your pardon, preseason ranked number 5, Arkansas, on the road to wrap up SEC regular season. And then the SEC baseball tournament, once again at Hoover, Alabama, down at the Hoover complex. And for the first time ever, no more winners brackets and loser brackets. It is going to be a 16-team elimination tournament. Winner takes it all. So it's going to be a lot of high-stakes drama, which, SEC baseball is the best college baseball conference in the nation. Kind of like what we're seeing with basketball this year with teams ranked in the top 10. I mean, we briefly mentioned, but we haven't mentioned everybody. As far as SEC teams go in the preseason, A&M number 1, Tennessee number 4, LSU 3, Arkansas 5, Georgia, who we don't play this regular season, number 8, Florida 10, Vanderbilt 16, Mississippi State 18, and Texas 19th in the preseason polls. It's going to be a fun baseball season overall, and I'm excited to see what's going to happen this upcoming season. That just kind of a quick general glimpse of what we're expected to see somewhat this season. But I'm excited Tennessee baseball's back, even though it's still winter and cold and raining and all that stuff. But pretty soon we're going to have nice days, and can't wait to see warm weather back at Lindsey Nelson Stadium. And can Tennessee make another run to Omaha? They have been successful with Tony Vitello, 3 trips with him, 1 national championship. Let's see if we can add another one in 2025. We'll see what kind of season we have. But that's going to wrap it up for the 2025 Tennessee baseball preview for Ball Society. Like I said, we'll try to bring baseball coverage as best as we can each and every week. But hope you enjoy this video, and let's see if the champs can repeat next season. So that's going to wrap it up. Awkward ending there, but that's fine. That's going to wrap it up for the Tennessee baseball preview. We hope you have a wonderful day. And as always,